Hello and welcome to another video here at Hobbies and Happiness. My name's Dan.
And I'm Jim. Today we are going over a Disney Lorcana deck profile.
All right, that was like so anticlimactic there, Jim, but that's okay. That's right, we are doing a deck profile, finally talking about some decks that we've brewed. I'm finally talking about this specific list that I've been working on for quite a while.
Yep.
But before we get into it, if you want to see, if you like content like this, if you want to see more deck techs from games like Disney Lorcana and maybe some other card games, don't forget, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on bell notifications so you can be notified when we release more content like this in the future. So this deck, this is a lot of fun. I'm finally excited to talk about this. So this is the first deck tech that we've done on the channel. I'm looking forward to doing more of these. I enjoy building decks and finally being able to talk about them now that we've got this set up. So this is an Amber Sapphire items list. So real quick story. So this started way back in Gen Con, right? When we were there at Gen Con 2023, and we opened two boxes.
Yep.
And I don't know, were you the first one who saw the card Tamatoa, and then like you thought it'd be interesting to build something around it?
Yeah, I saw him like, oh, there's got to be a build around somewhere.
Well, and then I think we opened 4.
Yeah,
I think we opened a playset, so we're like, we might as well. Mm-hmm. And so I built a Sapphire Steel item deck at Gen Con, called it Crab Control, with just set 1 cards. Man, it was rough. It was very
difficult.
rough. But once I saw Ariel, Who's It Collector, I'm like, man, that is a card that I want to build around. So now that set 2 is out, we've got a lot of pieces that we can make a very interesting list. So that's kind of what we did. So with that being said, let's take a quick look at the list. So here's the list. I'm calling it Ariel's stuff. So it is a Sapphire, Amber. The entire point of this deck is to cycle through your deck and draw a bunch of cards and then just abuse Ariel's ability of when you get to play an item, you can restand here. We're going to go through this deck card by card, but Jim, I just want to get your quick overall thoughts and takes on when you see the list looking like this.
You know, back when we created it all those months ago, which seems like such a long time.
It does, yes.
You know, it was one of my favorite decks we came up with. Sure, it didn't work out that great, but you know, now with the second set, it's a lot better.
All right, so now that we've taken a quick look at the deck list, we're going to take a look at each one of these cards individually. We're going to go through each card. We're going to go through how many we are playing in the deck. So Jim, you ready to take a look at this?
I'm ready.
All right, let's get into it. All right, the first card that we are going to take a look at is basically the namesake. It's Ariel, Who's It Collector. She is a 3/3/1 for 4. She is not inkable. She's a Storyborn hero princess. She has the ability, look at this stuff. Look at this stuff. Isn't it neat? Actually, I think I'm going to rename the deck to just Look at This Stuff. I think that's probably a better name for the deck overall. But she's got an ability to look at this stuff. Whenever you play an item, you may ready this character. The problem we had in set 1 was we just didn't have, I don't think we had enough ways to really abuse that ability. Yeah. Good ways.
Yeah.
Now in set 1 that we do, or now in set 2, we've got more, which obviously, hey, you got more cards, you got more ways to do things, right? So I remember when we first saw this card, I mean, what do you think? Anytime you see an ability that says when you do a thing, ready this character,
I can't wait to storm off.
and that's pretty much what we thought.
Yep.
So that's kind of what our initial thought was with Ariel. So the entire point of this deck is get Ariel on board and then quest with her, play an item, restand, quest, play an item, restand. In order to do that, we need to draw cards. We need to draw through the deck. And then we need enough resources out on board to play all of those items to be able to abuse that ability. However, Ariel, not enough, right? She's uninkable, right? Which again, I don't want, this is a card I don't want ink because this entire deck is built around. Correct. It's built around her. So she's a main part of the deck. We're obviously running 4 copies of Ariel. So let's take a look at the next card that we want to touch on, and that is Tamatoa. So Tamatoa, so shiny. He's a 5/8, 1/8. He's inkable. Okay, he's a storyborn villain, super rare. He has 2 abilities. What have we here? Basically, when you play him and whenever he quests, you get to get an item back from the bin.
Real good.
Which is really good.
Real good.
So when we see that, the thought now goes, okay, now we want to recycle items on the board and in the graveyard, in the recycling bin. I'm just gonna call it the recycling bin instead of the graveyard, right? We want to get them there, and then we want to get them back, right? So that's a huge ability because you get that on play, but then also in quest. Okay, and then his second ability, Glam. This character gets +1 lore for each item you have in play. If you have a board full of items and you're able to get a Tamatoa down, you are threatening. And then with that 8 willpower, there we go. That 8 willpower,
it's hard to get rid of.
Hard to get rid of unless you have spot removal.
Yep.
Okay, so Tamatoa, such an amazing card. And then of course I believe we're running full playset. Yeah, we're running full playset of Tamatoa.
No reason not to.
No, exactly. I mean, again, he's inkable.
Yep.
So again, you see him early in the game and you need a resource, you can resource him. Put him down as ink. So that's another big, he's a key card to the deck. So another key card we want to talk about is Maurice, World's Famous Inventor.
Oh, yeah.
I love this card. So Maurice, World Famous Inventor. He's an inkable 2/7/2 for 6 Dreamborn Mentor Inventor. Of course, you're running 4 copies of Maurice. Got 2 abilities. Give it a try. Whenever he quests, you can pay 2 less for the next item you play this turn. That's huge. That's huge. We do have a lot of 1-drop items, which we'll get to the items here in a little bit. But that coupon for that rebate, okay, for 2 is phenomenal, right? And so there's a card, and we'll touch on it, but it's Eye of the Fates that costs 4. It's really, you don't want to be paying honestly more than 2 resources late in the game.
But right. It is really good.
It's really good, but I only want to be paying 1 or 2 for really for anything.
100%.
Especially in a deck like this, you want to be able to cycle it. So that's huge, but the main reason we play him, Give It a Try, is great, but his It Works ability, whenever you play an item, you get to draw a card.
I honestly forgot about this ability until Dan said it. I'm like, oh yeah, Maurice is a good card, and then I kept reading it, I'm like, oh, it's better.
Yeah, in a deck like this, you want to max out those copies. I mean, when you're able to just draw, and that's what I want to do with this deck. You just want to cycle through and draw, and draw. So that is Maurice, another huge card. And then the next card we're going to touch on is another new card from set 2, Rise of the Floodborn. It's Hiram Flaversham. Of course, running 4 copies of Flaversham Toymaker.
Phenomenal.
This is such a great card. He's an inkable, 4 cost, 1/6/1 Storyborn Inventor. He has the ability Artificer. When you play this character and whenever he quests, which is huge. I mean, these cards, the thing that is great about these cards is they both do something when you play them and when they quest. Flaversham, Artificer, when you play and whenever you quest, you get to banish an item of yours to draw 2 cards. I don't care what item it is. If it's Popsicle, great, and of course you're running a full play set of Popsicles. But it can be anything. Banish it, draw 2, and then we have cards like Tamatoa to get those cards back, to then draw more cards to utilize and abuse Ariel's ability. Flaversham, an amazing card that we're running in this deck.
You know, Dan, it makes a lot of sense that you would build a value engine.
You think?
To just go off.
Yeah. Speaking of value engines, here's the card itself, Popsicle. I remember when we saw this card, my mind first, I mean, what did you think when you first saw this card?
I thought this card was dumb good when I saw it. I'm like, why would you print this? That was my initial thought. Why would you print this? And then I saw some people online were saying, it's like, oh yeah, all of us didn't think that this was a good card when it got released. I'm like, how? How?
I mean, when I first saw this card, I was blown away. I saw it, blown away, and thought this is perfect, especially for this item deck. So Popsicle, an inkable 1-cost item. It's got 2 abilities, Jumbo Pop. When you play this item, you may draw a card. So it's just a 1-cost plain item draw card. The even better thing about this card in this deck specifically, it has a sacrifice outlet built in.
It's beautiful.
It's built in. So like if you have Nick Wild, if you have Tamato and you want to get something back from grave or discard, you can sacrifice this. So the ability, that's Redwood, banish this item, remove up to 2 damage from chosen character. If you don't have any characters on board, fine. Banish it, remove 2 from your opponent's stuff, even if they don't have any damage marked on them, to get it into the grave, to then get it back. It's such a value engine. And then to just play it again, and then you're continually cycling through your deck. Popsicle, such a great card, and I think this is the build specifically for it. All right, next we definitely got to talk about Nick Wild. Nick Wild, Wily Fox, another 4 of. Again, you got to max out the copies to get those popsicles back.
Popsicle is just too good.
Correct.
And to be able to now recycle it even faster than having the Tamatoa out, amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So Nick Wild is an inkable 4-cost, 2/4/2 Storyborn ally, uncommon, has the ability, it's called a hustle. There's one word that they missed in there. It's called a hustle sweetheart. That's what they forgot to put that on the card. But anyway, it says when you play this character, you may return an item card named Popsicle from your discard to your hand. Again, we're just looking to max out the value just to trigger everything else in the deck. So that is Nick Wild, Wily Fox. The next card we're going to talk about, let's touch on a bunch of the items here. So honestly, a lot of these items, there's not a lot to talk about. There's some really good ones, but some that are just, hey, we're going to use it to utilize it for the value engine. And then the first one is Magic Golden Flower, another 4 of, inkable 1 cost, healing potion. You can banish it, you remove up to 3 damage from chosen character. Great if we use it, it's fine if we don't, because again, I can get it right into the bin.
It's really just a worse version of the Popsicle. You're not drawing off of it, but it's still a 1 cost that you can sacrifice with Flaversham or even get back with Tamatoa and really cheap. So that way you can restand the Ariel.
That's the thing, is the reason I love this is it's a 1-drop. So I love all of the 1 cost and 2 cost things that really just help synergize with the deck itself. So that's Magic Golden Flower. Next one we're going to touch on is Lantern. I think this is a perfect deck for Lantern. I'm okay sacrificing this to Flaversham. Right? Excuse me, sorry guys. I'm very much okay doing that to get that value, okay? So Lantern, I'm sure you know what it does by now. It's an uninkable 2 cost with the ability Birthday Lights. You can pay 1 less for the next character you play this turn when you exert it. I think this is a perfect deck for this. Because one of the things that you need characters on board. You need Ariel, and then you need to rush, like, if you're able to get Tamato on board early, you can just get so much value. It's really great. So I think Lantern is really tailor-made for this because, again, you get benefits on playing an item, and then you get the benefits of getting those cost reduction stuff on the back end as well. Now we are running, of course, we're running for full copies. We're running 4 of the Lantern.
The real nice thing about it is with it being a turn 2 play. And Ariel, who's a collector's normally turn 4, now sets you up to play it on turn 3. So then you can kind of storm off a little sooner.
If you're able, again, being able to get her on board early. And another one that is great to get early is Maurice. Getting 100%. Maurice early is so good. Right? Because, I mean, again, he's a 6-drop, but if you're able to get him out on turn 4, turn 5, you can get so much more value so much earlier. So Maurice, again, Lantern is just such a good card to have in a deck like this. All right. Next one we're going to touch on is Fishbone Quill. Again, Fishbone Quill, I feel like, is another great card for a deck like this. Okay, one of the things you need is resources. You want to storm off, you need a lot of resources, and that's where Lantern comes into play. But now you have a card like Fishbone Quill comes into play as well, getting more resources onto the board for you. Only running 3 of in this deck, which I think is correct. I don't know if I'd want to run a full play set, because again, I want to abuse these low-cost items. If I'm paying more for them, they need to have utility. Fishbone Quill has utility, a lot of utility, but I don't think enough where I want to see 4 of in the deck.
I don't mind seeing it at 4. I can see the argument for it because it's inkable.
Yes.
So it's like, all right, Kay, I have that extra copy for sometimes just put it into the inkwell because you still want to see a decent number of them.
Right.
And if you're ever forced to put it into the inkwell because now you have to be playing other stuff,
right.
It's not a bad idea.
That's a good call because again, once I have one on board, I'm perfectly fine resourcing the rest of them. Yep. Because again, once it's on board, I can recycle it if need to as well potentially. So we are running three of Fishbone Quills in this build. Next card we're going to touch on Grammatala. So my earlier versions of this deck, I didn't have any like 1-drop or 2-drop characters, which you need. Yep. You do. You really, really need them. So there's, again, in this build, no 1-drop characters. We do have some 2-drops. So Grammatala, this is one we are playing 3 of. Again, I think is correct, right? I'm perfectly fine either resourcing it or putting it out on board. Yep. I would much rather have it out on board because then I'm able to get more utility, off.
You know what Grammatala gets rid of?
What's that?
It gets rid of those dang 1 and 2 drops that can tap for 4 lore or quest for 2 or 3 lore.
Yeah.
The Maleficent, the Lilo, the Pinocchio. Get them out of there.
Yes, that's true.
And then you're just like, I'm going to plus now.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So I wish there were more stats on Grammatala, in all honesty. Which if there were more stats, I'd max it out probably. But yeah, we are running the 3 of Grammatalas. I don't even think I read that ability, in all honesty.
Oh, yeah.
Grammatala Storyteller. She's a 1/1 for 2 inkable, but her ability, I will be with you. When this character is banished, you can put this card in your inkwell face down and exerted. Didn't read the ability on Fishbone Quill either, but the argument that I was going to say for Fishbone Quill, right, is yes, it's inkable, but it also makes your uninkables inkable as well because you're putting them into the inkwell. So anyway, so that's Grammatala. Let's talk about the next card here. Eye of the Fates. I love this card.
Phenomenal.
Such a great card, especially in a deck like this where you can give Ariel 1 more lore and then you're able to tap for 2, restand, tap for 2, restand, tap for 2, getting so much more value off of that.
Yep.
Biggest problem with this, it's a 4-drop. It's a 4-drop.
It's okay. We can reduce it.
Yeah, we can. We can reduce it.
We just don't want to see it a lot, which is why it's at 2.
Right. So Eye of the Fates, that's one of those where if I'm trying to storm off and then I draw into it, I'm like, would much rather have had that on board earlier. Yep. So Eye of the Fates, inkable 4 cost with the ability to see the future. You can exert it and then chosen character gets +1 lore this turn. A great card. Such a great card. But yeah, with that 4 cost, something I don't want to see as much, unfortunately. So with that, let's talk about the next one, If It's Not Baroque. This card, now with Flowersham, now with ways to get all these items into the bin, I think we need to run If It's Not Baroque, okay? Now, this is a card that's kind of on the brink, okay? We are running the full playset. It's not inkable. Okay, but it's a 3 cost and says return an item card from your discard your hand. We have this for free on Tamatoa, but Tamatoa cost 8. Okay, and so if I want to get stuff back early to draw cards off of multiple effects, right? Then that's where If It's Not Baroque comes into play. What's your thoughts on this card in the deck?
You know, obviously, it's an amazing card because we want to be utilizing as many items as possible. And with Flowersham being able to now draw us cards by getting rid of it, it is extremely good. It's just something about it. It's just sometimes I'm like, is there something better? But I know when we're playing to this plan of get as many items, this is just one of the really good cards for it.
Right. So I'm going to be interested in playing this deck to see how well this card performs. This might be one that's early on the chopping block. We'll see. But again, this is also a deck where you want to storm off. Like you need to just burst. There's going to be turns where you don't do anything, but it's you work to burst every turn or 2. And that's what you're wanting to do. And that's what a card like If It's Not Broke does. Now, if we're not ramping, if we didn't have cards like Grammatala or the Quill, then I can see against it. Right? But because we do have some ways to ramp in this deck, then I think I think I'm okay putting this into the deck.
Yeah.
So it's a card I was initially stoked for, did not work very well in set 1. But now with these other cards, I think we're getting there.
And I do think that's where most of my mindset is with the card, because we know it didn't work too well in set 1,
right?
But with all the new stuff in set 2, it can work extremely well.
Right. I'm looking forward to saying, okay, I have 15 cards in hand. All right, let's go. So that's If It's Not Baroque. All right, so the next one, let's talk about another one from Rise of the Bloodborne, Alice Growing Girl. So Alice Growing Girl, we're running 3 ofs, right? So Alice is an inkable 3-cost 1/4/1 Dreamborn hero. Now, set 1, we had a card, Scepter of Arendelle, which you could exert the scepter to give chosen character support. And I wanted to use that with Ariel, right? Just give Ariel support and then boost up your other stuff, right? Which, that's great, but what am I now doing? Am I just trying to take something else out? Control the board, potentially? Yeah. There was nothing that I was able to really support that then did much with that ability. Scepter was great because it's another 1-drop item, right? But Alice gives me another threat. So she's a 1/4/1, okay? Dreamborn hero, legendary card. 2 abilities. First is Good Advice. Your other characters gain support. Okay, so when you're able to quest multiple times with Ariel, you're getting a lot of support triggers. Okay, but that's not the only thing. That's not the reason I run this in the deck. It's that second one. What did I do? While this character has 10 strength or more, she gets +4 lore.
Beautiful.
So this is another threat. So if you have Ariel on board, you need to quest with her 3 times.
Yep.
You have other cards like Tamatoa that does something on quest, which again, you probably need to quest with Tamatoa maybe twice in this deck to win, most likely, right? Given the time you play him, hopefully you've got lore on board, right? Unless you're playing against Steel. The Steel is going to be a difficult matchup for this deck, for sure, right? But there are plenty of ways where you are going to easily be able to get Alice to above 10. And if you do, she quests for 5, which is beautiful. Like, you need threats in this deck, and Alice is another one of those threats. What's your thought when you saw Ariel? Just out of curiosity.
Alice?
Alice is what I meant. I'm sorry. Thank you.
I was semi-confused about it. I'm like, we don't have enough creatures in the list. But then I forgot that Ariel was 3 strength, and all you have to do is restand her 3 times, quest, and now Alice is ready.
Yep.
Phenomenal.
And then so let's say you did that. If you were able to quest with Ariel 3 times, that's 3 lore. And now you're
8.
questing with 5. Oh,
8.
with 2 characters, mind you.
Yeah.
That's 2 cards.
On top of, you're probably drawing like 2 cards.
Correct. You're drawing a bunch of cards as well. So I'm excited to see how well Alice is going to perform in this deck. So that's Alice Growing Girl. Next one is Noi. Noi Orphan Thief, I think, is a perfect...
Super annoying,
right? So Noi Orphan Thief, we're running 3 in the deck. Okay, so Noi, inkable 2-cost, 1/2/2, Storyborn ally. She has her ability, Hide and Seek, while you have an item in play. Which, let's be honest, you're going to have an item in play. While you have an item in play, this character gains resist +1 and ward. Yeah. So this is going to be very annoying. So this is like the perfect card for that early game.
Yep.
Right? Having that, it's so good because you can't target her. Okay. Yep. She's able to quest for lore early to get you lore on the board, right? But then she's also able to challenge into your small creatures, your small characters, and then get damage on the board for you as well.
Yep.
So I think Noi is a perfect card for this list. What's your thought when you saw Noi? Because I know you didn't really understand what she did at first.
When I first saw it, I was kind of like, it's a good effect. But I'm like, the body's just too small for this to really mean anything to me. And I'd see other people playing, and I'm like, just get Noi out of there. It was annoying me just looking at her, right? And so, but honestly, the card, after playing more games of just Lorcana in general, it's a really good card.
It is.
It's a really good card.
It is. You can get a lot of value from Noi. Yeah.
And with Steel being like the biggest problem for the deck, and it's like, all right, you can't target it.
Yep.
It's not going to happen.
It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
And then if you can't target it, Okay, well, if it's untapped, I mean, you
And
can't.
It's questing for 2.
It's questing for 2, right?
Questing for 2.
Right. You can quest for like 4 early in the game just to get you some. And honestly, once you have 4 on the board, I mean, you can storm off very quickly with this. So that is Noi, Orphaned Thief. All right, next one, removal package. We are running the four copies of Let It Go, 5-cost song. We all know what it does. Action song, put chosen character into their player's inkwell face down and exerted. The only downside to Let It Go is Ariel can't sing it.
Yeah.
That's the only downside. That's the only downside. And so again, this deck is just going to get better when we see more cards. I'm excited to see what more cards we can get in the future in set 3 and beyond. I'm interested to see if there's going to be locations that we can throw into this deck to see if that's going to make it any better. But yeah, Let It Go. I think you got to run there's not a lot of interaction in this deck, and I think you have to run Let It Go. But yeah, I mean, there's other thoughts that I have on some other interaction / removal.
We'll get there.
Yeah, but Let It Go, I think you have to run the full play set. I mean, would you agree?
It's just one of the best removals in the game. So,
well, not better than Dragonfire.
That's why I said one of the best.
But again, this is also inkable.
Yep.
It's inkable, which again is huge. So that's Let It Go. Next one, it's Rapunzel. We're running Amber, and we are running a full play set of Rapunzel gifted with healing. I think you all know what it does. Inkable 4-cost 1/5/2. Storyborn hero Princess Gleam and Glow. When you play this character, remove up to 3 damage from one of your characters. Draw a card for each 1 damage removed this way.
Okay.
So initially, I only had a couple copies, but Jim convinced me to max out the play sets. Okay, because again, my initial thought was early game.
Yeah.
And then Alice only has 4. Most likely, if they're challenging the early stuff, it's just being removed.
Yeah.
Even Ariel, right? But you also have Maurice. You have Tamatoa.
Yeah.
Flaversham. Flaversham has 6 willpower. Maurice has 7. Tamatoa has 8. Drawing more cards off of that it's going to be crazy. It's going to be crazy. I mean, I think Rapunzel's kind of no-brainer. It's Amber. You're running for
even
a
if
full
you heal
play
one
set.
of your other Rapunzels, or Alice, I believe, also has 4
She has 4.
willpower.
She has
and
4.
what about the little fox guy?
He has 4.
4.
He has 4. Yeah.
There's a lot of targets that can live having 3 damage on it. Rapunzel comes in, even if you're just healing 2.
Yeah.
Draw 2.
You're
heal
drawing.
2.
Again, the entire goal of this deck is to draw. Item, and draw. That's what we're doing with this deck.
Yep.
So that's Rapunzel gifted with healing. And then the last card we're going to talk about is Snow White Well-Wisher. This very easily could be Hades, okay?
Yeah.
But I opted to go with Snow White Well-Wisher because it's repeatable.
Yes.
Now, you could argue Hades is also repeatable. If you Hades to find another Hades, you could do that.
Yeah.
It's too much work. Which, again, this... Yes, she costs 6, but it is a repeatable effect of On Quest. Yes. She has 5, okay? So it's Snow White Well-Wisher. She's a 3/5/2, uninkable for 6. Floodborn Hero Princess, she has shift 4. We're not shifting onto her, right? Because we're not running any smaller Snow Whites. I did have them in the deck, but they don't go with the strategy. They just don't, unfortunately. There's just too many other cards that do better things, okay? And so her ability is Wishes Come True. Whenever this character quests, you may return a character card from discard to your hand. Which, again, if we're in Amber, I feel like we have to do that. Because there's so many key cards that are integral to the strategy. Right? And so we don't have any ways of protecting our stuff, which we'll get to that in a second.
What is this deck called again?
Ariel's Items.
Oh, it's like Ariel's important.
Yes, she's very important. But again, that's why when we have now Alice, right? Well, there's other things that we can do that get a lot of value, right? It used to be, well, it's just Ariel, right? But now she's the key, and we want ways to get her out on board. And so Snow White helps us get her back as well. So that's the entire deck. Now I want to talk about some cards that are on the honorable mention list. One card I forgot to add, but the first one is Launch. Launch works very well with the strategy. I think Launch could be one of those sideboard cards, and I'm interested to see if we're ever going to get any sideboards. I doubt we will, but if we had sideboards, this card would be in the sideboard. Like, again, I think if you're playing in a tournament, which you're probably not going to play a tournament with this deck, in all honesty, like this would be one of those. How it goes. Yeah, this would be one of those cards that you'd put on it, right? Yeah. To see if you need more interaction. And Launch gives you that interaction. It's 5 damage. Yep. It's a lot of damage. Drawback: it's not inkable. Not inkable. Costs 3, but it's tailor made.
Like 2 or 3, maybe.
It's tailor made for a deck like this. Yeah. It is tailor made for a deck like this. So that's Launch, not on the list, but it's on honorable mention. Next is World's Greatest Criminal Mind. Now, here's a card that Ariel could sing. A 3-cost inkable action song that says banish chosen character with 5 strength or more. So this is another one that could be meta dependent. Could be one that's on your sideboard type list. I had two copies in here. This is what I cut for the remaining playsets or the remaining copies of Rapunzel. I like this card. I think it's good, but again, if your opponent is playing all over the ground stuff, it's a dead card. Yep. It does literally nothing.
Completely dead.
So that's World's
Greatest. That can be inked.
Yes, yeah, it could be inked. Now, I'm not sure if I have another card here. Yes, so Judy Hops. Judy Hops is another card. Didn't make the list. She's a 2/3/2 for 3, inkable Storyborn hero. Her ability is Don't Call Me Cute. When you play this character, you may banish chosen item. Its player draws a card. It fits. It works with a strategy. It's just there's cards that can do more. Now she is 3, so she costs 3, so she's relatively low to the ground, right?
I do like that she has 2 lore as well.
Yes, she has 2
really
lore.
Really nice stats.
She has 2 lore. Again, Nick Wilde also has 2. Nick Wilde's a 2/4/2, but he costs 4, right? So fits well with the deck. You know, it could be one that you could slot in for some other cards. So Judy Hops. The next one that I want to talk about is Belle, Inventive Engineer. Another one that didn't make the list. This is from set 1. 2/3/2 for 3, inkable Dreamborn Hero, Princess Inventor. Her ability, Tinker. When she quests, you pay 1 less for the next item you play this turn. I'm not running it because she doesn't do enough, in my opinion. Maurice is just a way better card.
She doesn't do anything when you do play her, so it's like, all right, 3 cost, do nothing, set up for future turns, but sometimes you just need that effect to go ahead and trigger.
And then the last card that I did not put in here, but I want to talk about real quick, is Aurora, Dreaming Guardian. She gives all your stuff ward. It's protection. And again, that's another one that I feel like is a great card, but again, I think it's meta matchup dependent. Like, what are you playing? If you're not playing Steel, if you're not playing against Steel, I don't think it's really going to do much, right? There are other colors that target, but Steel is probably going to be the most prevalent. Also Ruby as well. But that's just, I did not put that card in the deck. That's another one that could be on the bubble.
Yeah.
The entire point of this deck was to go out, run your game plan, and don't look back. That's the entire goal of the deck. So that's what we thought. Let's take another, if I can actually get there, to the, we'll do that in a second. So that's the deck. So Jim, now that we've gone through the cards, what's your quick take on the deck?
It seems like it's going to be, you gotta hope you have a miracle here. That's exactly what the deck is.
It pretty much is. So here's another look. Yeah, I'm excited to get this one out. This is an archetype that I've been really interested in for a while.
Can't wait to play a Steel deck against.
Yeah, you would. But I really just want to see how well this all works together. It seems like just a perfect kitchen table deck. Kitchen table casual deck to just mess around and have a lot of fun with and draw a bunch of cards. So I'm excited for it. I think this is going to be fun. We will have some gameplay with this deck. Once we have the gameplay recorded, stay tuned. I will make sure I link it in this video somewhere. It will be here. We haven't recorded it yet, but it will be here. So with all of that, I'm going to kick it to you. Let us know what you guys think of the deck. What's your thoughts on this color combination for this archetype? Do you think we need to do a different color with Sapphire? I've been trying a lot of the colors with Sapphire specifically, and I think this one's going to work pretty well. But there's a lot of ways there's a lot of things you can do. Excited to see what more items we get in the future.
Sapphire seems like a very underrated color right now, but a lot of potential.
Yeah. And I'm excited to see what more cards we're going to get in the future to even make this archetype even better. So again, let us know what you guys think down below in the comments. Hey, if you want to build it, go right ahead. Build it, have fun, have the time of your life. I'm going to build it. We're going to have some fun on the table. We're going to showcase what this deck can do in a future video. So don't forget, stay tuned. Again, if you want to see more content like this, if you like seeing deck techs, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on those bell notifications so you can be notified when we release more Disney Lorcana content in the future. With that being said, Jim, thanks for being here. This was fun, and then we'll catch you in the next video. See you, everybody.
Take care.